Welcome to the Salvation Army, and we actually want to introduce to you, in case you haven't met him before, Lieutenant Jonathan Whitaker. You and your wife, Lieutenant Dawn Whitaker, are the new people in charge of the Salvation Army in Rocky Mount area?
We are. We've been here for about 6 months now. We got here in June.
Wonderful. And came from where?
Came from Winston-Salem, just down the road about 2.5 hours. Loved it there, but we are more than happy to be here.
Well, super. And you brought 2 children with you?
Two children, a 13-year-old son named Carter and a 12-year-old girl named Abigail.
You're very busy.
I'm very busy, and I cry a lot.
Well, those are interesting ages to be.
That's right.
So, have a lot to
right.
say. Well, we are in your sanctuary.
Yes, ma'am.
Beautiful Christmas decorations behind it. And we're going to talk about the kettle ringing. We're going to talk about angel trees. We're going to talk about toy giveaways and whatnot. But for those who don't really know the Salvation Army or know that much, I think most people identify with the kettle ringing. Very familiar with the angel trees. But you're a real church. You have services when?
First and foremost, we're a church. Above everything else that we do, we're a church. We have services every morning, or every Sunday morning, I'm sorry. Sunday school starting at 9:30, and then of course our holiness worship service starts at 11. And then that evening, of course, at about 5:30, I believe, we have a Bible study and devotion. And then we have programs throughout the week as well.
And you were trained as a minister?
I am. My wife and I are both ordained ministers in the Salvation Army. Went to the Salvation Army Training College in Atlanta, Georgia, and both received our ordination, our degrees there.
Is it important, well, I'm sure it's important, but is it necessary for both of you to be ministers?
It is in the Salvation Army. It's a partnership for a few different reasons, but mainly it would be a very tough life if one of us was called to be a minister and the other one was not. It would sometimes it puts a strain on a marriage. But we were both very blessed that God called us both at the exact same time.
Great.
And you know, it's not an easy job, but we look at it as a privilege to do, and we love every minute of it.
And you have other members of your family, I believe, who have been in the Army, right?
I do. I am actually a 6th generation Salvationist. That's our denomination. I'm a 5th generation Salvation Army officer. It goes all the way back to my great-greats came from England to Canada, or Newfoundland, which is right outside of Canada, and started the Salvation Army's work there, which is really still growing. It's one of the biggest areas that we have in the Salvation Army. And then my grandparents and my parents, and I still have a multitude of uncles and aunts as well.
Great. So you were brought up in...
All I've ever known, all I've really ever loved. Even before I came to know the Lord, I've loved the Salvation Army. Well,
Lieutenant Whitaker, my personal experience with you all is nothing but wonderful thoughts about what you do and admiration for what you do and who you are. But I think one thing that's important for people to know is, above all else, when people donate to the Salvation Army, there are very low operating costs, and most of the money goes right back to helping the needy people in our community.
Absolutely. We're one of the lowest of any charities as far as our operating cost. And when you donate locally to the Salvation Army, that money stays locally in the Salvation Army. It goes for our services and the things that we do throughout the year, not just at Christmas time, but throughout the entire year.
Talk to us about the kettle drive this year.
Oh, the kettles are so important. The kettles started 124 years ago in San Francisco when a Salvation Army captain at that point in time ran a soup kitchen during the Christmas season. He didn't believe anybody should go hungry, especially at that time. And he was having a hard time raising money, so that's what he did. He put a big cast iron metal pot, and he painted it red, and he wrote a sign that said, "Keep the pot boiling." And the money that he raised helped him keep his soup kitchen going throughout that Christmas season, and then throughout the year as well. So he kept that going the next couple of years. Within 3 or 4 years, it was on the West Coast, or all over the West Coast, but then on the East Coast in Boston. And since then, it's spread all over the place. The red kettle is so important for a multitude of reasons. One reason, we're most visible, like you said, at Christmas time. That's when people remember that we're here, even though they don't see us throughout the year. The second thing is, we are raising money for our programs, not just at Christmas. We're at this 365 days a year. So the money that they put in the kettle, it goes through this community. And Also, it gives everybody the opportunity to donate. Not everybody has that opportunity to donate as much as they would like to, and that red kettle being out there as long as it is gives people that opportunity.
And how many different places are you located?
I think today, and well, this Christmas, we are at 16 locations this Christmas, and we're plugging away.
And you pretty much volunteer run with that.
We do a lot of volunteers. We do have some paid kettle ringers. That's another advantage of having that kettle. It provides employment for people during Christmas that need it so terribly. Yeah.
Well, and I heard, and it may not be true when this airs, but that the funds, and I know of someone I read in the paper that used to ball up $100 bills and wrap it in $1 bills or $5. And
that was a legendary thing that we heard about even before we came here. Yeah, they would roll up hundreds in $1 bills or $5 bills.
And I have heard who that might be, and that person
really?
Is no longer living.
That's what I understand.
So we need other people to
we
come
need
up.
other people to do the same thing. Yes, that would be fantastic.
Well, and I've heard that maybe the funds aren't quite as much year to date as they have been in the past, so we really need people to step up.
They tend to fluctuate year to year. We have great years and we have years that are not so good, and this year we're a little behind. My wife and I are big believers that God's going to give us exactly what we need, and He'll bless whatever we get. With that being said, we still have to do our due diligence and work as hard as we can. But they're a little down. We're praying, and we're putting it all in God's hands.
Well, and that's absolutely as it should be.
That's right.
I'd like for you as a parent to address other parents too, because I always felt like it was important for me as a parent to role model for my kids and tell them what the significance of the kettle was and to give them money to put in the kettle.
Absolutely, and my wife and I have done this at a couple schools already this year. That was very important in my family growing up, that my parents instilled in us how blessed we were. And in order to do that, that was something that we were not made to do by any means, but we were encouraged to give money even though we were part of the Salvation Army. We were encouraged to give money. We were encouraged when Angel Tree first started to adopt kids off that tree, and my brother and I would go out and adopt kids. My family still does that. We still take several angels off the tree. It's become a tradition in our household. It would not be Christmas now without us doing that. And my kids, I hope that we've raised them up well enough to know that they've got a very blessed life, and they know that it's their duty as a Christian, and it's just the right thing to do, that they repay back what they get. And
I think you're more blessed when you do that.
Oh, I think so. And I think people would maybe argue with me, but I think kids these days and youth these days have a better grasp of that than they ever have before.
Good.
And particularly in this area, I can tell you the youth of our church and the youth of the schools that we've been around to are just so wonderful. We have several schools volunteering to ring the bells and do a lot of other things. And it's Christmas. It makes it feel like Christmas all of a sudden, yeah.
How do you determine the kids and who writes up the angels that go on the angel tree?
Well, my wife is the angel tree guru. She's the one. We have an application process that they go through. There is a qualification process as far as who qualifies, who does not. At that point, we take the kids who are eligible in age, which is 12 and under, and my wife makes sure, and in a lot of cases, hand writes these angels. We make sure that we have their likes, their sizes, their needs, most importantly. And we do our best to put all that on an angel tree card, and we stick them out in public places, as you've probably seen in banks and shopping centers and malls. And before each angel goes out, my wife and I pray over them to make sure, because we want to make sure, the wants and all that stuff, they're so important, but it just couldn't be Christmas without that, Christmas morning without that anyway.
And so they are all carefully checked to be sure that they have a genuine need.
Absolutely. They're carefully checked and scrutinized over. And so everybody that you see, any name of a child that you see on any card, angel tree card, are really in need. They are really in need, kids who
wouldn't
that need
have
a Christmas.
without.
Yeah, they need a Christmas. I get a little teary thinking about it, but it's certainly something that needs to be done.
Well, and I saw your fellowship, the big room, the gathering.
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Are those the angel tree?
Those are the angel trees, and we set up a little different than we have in the past to keep each family separate from each other, to make sure that nothing gets mixed in. My wife has set up all these boxes. So each box that you see, if you were to go in there, represents a family. And it's really overwhelming and really breathtaking. I took my bell ringers in there this morning and said, look, this is what you're doing. This is what we do year round. This is the only time we get to see it, but this is what we do year round. And it really is breathtaking, and my wife is so great at keeping that stuff organized. And She's
I
the best.
asked her to join us, and she said no, she's working.
She's working. It's hard to pry her away from those things. Yeah, she's working. She's a busy bee.
Well, and as we look at other projects during this time of year, you also, I think, one year there have been some bicycles.
There are some bicycles. I'll tell you, the HOG chapter here, the Harley Davidson Owners Guild here in Rocky Mountain, this area.
The Harley Davidson Guild.
Is that the way you say
that sounds good.
They do a toy run for us, and that happened at the beginning of December.
Good.
Huge amount of motorcycles showed up, and then they also collect money for toys. People bring in toys, but they also collect money for bicycles. So we right now have a lot of bicycles that they will actually be coming tonight to put together, and with helmets, and so we can make sure that a lot of these kids go riding on Christmas morning. That would be fantastic.
Well, I hope that a lot of people do make the Salvation Army a really important part of their Christmas.
I hope so.
Because, as you said, it's totally faith-based, which is what Christmas is to start with.
It is faith-based.
But it really can build up tradition of being a part of making somebody else's Christmas good.
Absolutely.
It's not just about us. It's
No,
about
it's not
others.
about us. And the Salvation Army was started 150 years ago with that very much that attitude, with that vision from God that we serve human need and then we serve spiritual need, because it's very hard to tell somebody that Jesus loves them when they haven't eaten in a week. So that's what we do. That's very much the theory. That's very much the calling that we have in our life.
And throughout the year, Rip Wooden, who's the chairman of your board, is going to join us shortly. We're going to talk about the thrift shop. But throughout the year, what are some of the other needs that you meet?
Oh, goodness. We meet, we have an emergency assistance office here in our building where just this past year, almost 2,800 individuals have been assisted with almost $240,000 worth of assistance. That goes from utilities, rent and mortgage, clothing. We help people who have lost everything in fires and disasters, those kind of things. If there's an avenue for us to help, if there's a way and a means that we can do it, we certainly do that. And that's a 365-day-a-year job for us, and a very, very important job. Those figures keep climbing, unfortunately. Those numbers keep climbing, and I don't really see that trend stopping anytime soon. So when we talk about the kettles don't just help us during this time of the year, which people seem to think. No, we spread it as far as we can, and that helps us throughout the year to help everybody. Could be your aunt, your uncle, maybe mother, father, friends, acquaintances. All those people that need help, we do our best to serve.
And most people put cash in there. Can they put checks?
Absolutely. Yeah, we love checks, we love cash, we love jingly stuff as well. We'll take anything that you've got.
Anything, absolutely. Well, let's take a break, and Rip's going to join us. We're going to talk about your thrift shop, but also talk about other ways throughout the year that you can help the Army.
Sounds fantastic.
Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Richard Koss, Pharmacy Manager at Almonds Drug Store at the Westridge Shopping Center. Here with my wife, daughters, and my business partner, Brad Hilton, and his wife, Katie. We are delighted to be new business owners living in Rocky Mount and are excited about the new services and products we are adding at Almonds Drug Store's 2 locations. With a full-service pharmacy, a large supply of over-the-counter supplements, and a comprehensive line of diabetic supplies, Almonds has you covered. Our pharmacists also specialize in consultations. We want you to pay the lowest prices and get the best service in town, and our staff works hard to help you save money, but we are also big on friendliness and customer care. We will deliver your prescriptions free, have drive-through windows, and guarantee short wait times. And we come out to greet you personally and see how we can answer all of your questions. Because as local business owners, we care about you. As a loyal member of your community for over 70 years, you can count on Almonds Drugs to make the health of you and your family our top priority.
Please call Almonds Drugs today.
443-3138.
Welcome back to the sanctuary at the Salvation Army here in Rocky Mount. And of course, Lieutenant Jonathan Whitaker is still with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Rip Wooden, who is the chairman of the board.
Glad to be here.
Is it an advisory board, or what do you call it?
Well, that is the official name of it. It is the Salvation Army Advisory Board.
Okay.
And we provide the officers and their staff with guidance as needed or requested. We can't decide exactly what they do, we can strongly suggest, and we can have, if really things are needed, we can have input at the upper levels of the of the Salvation Army. So we're not without some influence, but most of us have been on the board for multiple years. Some people have been on it for 20 plus or more. People like Jim Dickens and Bill
Betsy
Kinchlow,
Body was on it for years.
and have been on it for years. So we provide an amount of continuity, but as the officers may rotate or be transferred, and that can happen every 3 to 4 years, or sometimes even sooner. So we provide the continuity and sort of help the officers get situated and learn the community, and then we also help a lot in the fundraising, which is important.
Well, and your careers and everybody's different level of expertise comes to bear too with being helpful.
Absolutely. Whether it's, we have people who are contractors and property, and they help us deal with property issues. 2 years ago, we refurbished the store, our thrift shop, for $250,000 to make it a better place for customers to come and shop. We have property that we're either going to, that we would use either for expansion or for resale that is given to the Army. So, and when we need something done to our present buildings, we have the expertise on the board to make sure that we get bids and get it done, fairly and professionally.
John, we're on the corner of Grace and Paul Street. This building, I don't remember, and I've been here over 30 years. It's always been here, and it's the same building. It's one of the older buildings, isn't it?
It is probably the oldest, if not one of the oldest, Salvation Army Corps community centers in the division of North and South Carolina. It's almost 70 years old.
Wow. And Rip, when we were talking about coming here today, you said there are not a lot of fancy areas to do the show, which I think you can't get much fancier than this being in chapel. But I said, well, that's what the Salvation Army is. They take the dollars and don't spend them on themselves. They push them right back out into our community.
Well, take, for example, the thrift store. It probably generates well over a third of our revenue for the year, along with the kettles, and then the balance is made up through donations and solicitations. But if everything that we sell in that store, it pays for the salaries of the staff, then everything that remains, instead of going into somebody's pocket or going out of town, it goes right into our programs that help us help our constituents, meaning the people in need. So all that money stays here rather than going elsewhere, as in some of the other thrift shops in town. That money, while it may help people, but it also goes out of town. And that's what I think, or part of it goes out of town. So that's what I think is the greatest area of importance for us, is that it stays here.
And not that we don't care about people in other areas, but we have enough people, as Jonathan, you were saying, given the amount that you're giving out to help with rent, to help food. I mean, you feed people, you provide Christmas for little kids who wouldn't have it otherwise. I mean, there are plenty of needs locally without spending our dollars and sending them out of town.
Absolutely, and it's a never-ending cycle. I mean, it's just, it keeps growing. It's a continuous thing, and people sometimes forget about that our folks here in our own town need our help just as much as people outside of our town.
Somebody said that when there's a catastrophe, the Red Cross jumps in and they're mandated immediately to come in and help, but then they leave after a couple days. I mean, the government, sponsors them or sends it in, but then y'all are the ones that are there for the rest of the time.
We still have, we say, boots on the ground because we are Salvation Army, so everything we do is kind of Salvation or military jargon. We currently still have people serving the community outside Columbia and down towards the coast of the Carolinas as well from our latest flood just 2 months ago.
Rip, what can people give? I'm thinking a lot of people are thinking, gee, I want that last minute tax deduction. You are a 501c3, and if you've got stuff sitting in your garage, if you've got stuff that you piled up somewhere.
Certainly clothes, any sort of household articles, we would hope that they'd be in good repair and functioning. But we will also come and pick up used refrigerators, things like that, we have a truck that'll save anybody the trouble. We'll just come pick it up. We do just about anything that somebody wants to donate, we can handle, and we try to sell it, and then, as Gene has said, the money stays here. So your donations are very important. It's what allows us to operate. If we don't have your donations, then we don't have good merchandise in the stores. So we would certainly urge anyone to call us, bring stuff by, or if for bigger items, call us and we will pick it up. And as Gene mentioned, we do give a receipt which is tax deductible.
And if you don't have it all written up, I normally write up what I bring before I get there and you staple it to my receipt. So that's a good idea, especially if you're going to bring lots of stuff, which we hope you do. Tell us where the thrift shop is. It's very easy to get in and out of.
I'm familiar with road names still. I
Okay.
can get you there, but I can't remember the names.
It's behind the
It's
Dunkin'
behind
Donuts
Dunkin'
across
Donuts
from Sam's
and-
Club.
Yes, right. Behind Dunkin' Donuts and Kentucky Fried Chicken, right in that area. Yes,
Right,
Okay.
and it's right where there was a seafood restaurant there at one point around the corner. So it's very near. Find the Ford Place and Dunkin' Donuts, and you will very quickly find a thrift store.
That back road. What are the hours, Jonathan?
The hours, they open at 10 o'clock in the morning and they close at 6.
How many days a week?
6 days a week. We're only closed on Sundays, and that's just for worship.
Well, and Saturdays when people clean out things when they're not at work would be the perfect time. You can pack it in your car and come on, and they help you get stuff out
Oh,
too.
they'll help you lift anything that you can't lift, or if you just need assistance getting anything out of the car. We have very friendly and wonderful employees down there that will help in anything.
We
that
also have a second thrift store in Tarboro, and the same thing applies there. Everything there all will stay and help us fund needs in Tarboro. So we are a regional Salvation Army for the Twin Counties. So we can certainly use your help there or here. So whatever is the most convenient. If you want to make some donations, either bring them here or to the store in Tarboro.
Rip, I have seen around town boxes where people can drop off stuff as opposed to the thrift store, and the ones that are for the Salvation Army are clearly marked. Is that right? And the ones I don't know who the other person is, and I certainly don't recognize them as being in the community, or if they're multiple other things. But is it true that none of the boxes come to you all except the ones that are clearly marked?
That's right. And for example, there are boxes out in front of Harris Teeter next to the post office on Sunset. And we've got others that are scattered around the town.
Why are you considered an army?
it was first started as the Christian Mission in 1865. We're celebrating our 150th anniversary this year. And in the newspaper in London, our founder's name was William Booth, and it said in the newspaper, William Booth and his volunteer army. And they liked that. They saw that and they liked that. But one of our pioneers of the Salvation Army said, I am no volunteer, I'm a soldier, I'm a recruit. And so we started as the Salvation Army, and it's just kind of stuck. That's our business. We work in saving people from whatever issue it may be. If it's human need, if it's spiritual need, that's where we come in.
So beyond helping people with, paying their rent or paying their utilities when they get in a bind, I'm sure they need to qualify in order to do that. Do you do counseling?
I am glad to do anything like that, and if we can't help in that way, then we will refer you out to somebody who can.
Wonderful. I didn't realize that. Well, good.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk about the kettles again.
The kettles are so important. I cannot begin to even express. They really are the lifeblood of the Salvation Army because it's the most recognizable thing that we have. The donations stay in the area. We are a little down this year, which it frightens us a little bit, but like we said before, we believe that God's got it, and we believe that God's going to give us what we need. But I encourage anybody, when you hear that bell, a lot of people call it the bell of hope. That's the sound of the Salvation Army through Christmas, and it's so recognizable. When you hear that bell, when you see that kettle, just drop some money in it.
And it is, a lot of people do that. I was ringing it yesterday, and I just did it for just an hour to fill in for somebody, and I had 28 donors that walked past. And
gave or walked past?
No, they gave. Out of probably.
I wonder if you were counting.
100. I was counting the donations just because I was curious.
Sure.
Not the amount, but we had 28 people. I had 28 people who dropped change or put money. One person even put some gas cards in the kettle that they didn't want or couldn't use, and they thought that was a good donation, which it really is. We can pass
Absolutely.
those on to people
Absolutely.
who need to put gas in their car if they're trying to get to work or wherever. So we take anything that you want to give.
Well, and it's part of what you do for Christmas.
It is. I think so.
It's a very visible way for us to role model for our kids, but also for us to say, this isn't about me, this is about hope and faith and giving to others.
And the volunteer opportunities are still very strong. If you would like to or interested in ringing that bell for a period of time, please contact. It has become a family tradition throughout the years with a lot of families, and it's just the mark of the start of Christmas.
Absolutely. Well, I certainly wish you well, but I
Thank
also
you.
agree with you that God will provide,
I believe.
and we're going to help.
Thank you. God
Thank
bless
you.
guys. Thank you very much.
Have a great day. See you next week.